Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chasing the Puck on a Monday. We're live. How's everyone doing? Been a couple of weeks since we've seen each other due to myself being away in Fife. Then, of course, obviously last week I was unable to attend our Monday interlude due to watching Ghostbusters 40th anniversary at the cinema. Really a good thing to see, but it's not like we missed anything, really, was there? I mean, it's not been a exciting couple of weeks in UK hockey. There's not been any dramas or shenanigans, malarkey, or just everyone starting to eat each other and people fighting within different groups and arguing week in, week out. And of course, that's not just in the EHL. We've got the Champions Hockey League, got the National Ice Hockey League as well. It's been a fun couple of weeks, hasn't it, really? And obviously, we're going to start looking at everything again. I asked on social media where people would want to start, and there seems to be an influx, really. I mean, obviously, one of the reasons was I was in Fife. The reason I went to see Ghostbusters. Of course, the other reason the show didn't go on, as they say. I'm going to blame the Sheffield Steelers, really. Obviously, everything else is their fault. So, if in doubt, blame the Sheffield Steelers. I think that's the way forward now for the rest of the season. So, anything that happens, let's blame them. But obviously, if you're listening from the UK, there are people listening in Berlin as well. Guten Tagen, of course. Obviously, if you know your German, I only know a few words. Anyway, so, it's a really big week. It's been a great week hockey in the Challenge Cup. There's been lots of ins and outs, people pulling net miners, and all sorts going on in the Challenge Cup. The Elite League, of course, as well. And then we've got looking at CHL action. So I think it's only remiss of me, really, to start from where we kind of missed off last week. So CHL, Wednesday night against Berlin. So if you don't know, Berlin, one of the top teams in Germany. I mean, obviously, looking at their position in the league table, the first leg of being 6 points clear, having 10 days off due to nature of the beast within the league, taking time off and having time to recuperate and everything like that, being such a top team that they are. You've got to look at it, really. I mean, everyone's kind of thought process in the beginning, the way that the Steelers were going to be taking on such a team, that, obviously there's these outside factors of Liam Kirk making the return. We'll come back to that shortly. But, on paper, Steelers are a team that have got into the last 16 of the CHL. A lot of teams have tried. Panthers is the only other team that's made it through that far, of course. But, you've got really, and they got the draw that, it's a top team. You're in a top competition. You want to play the top teams. And going from the injuries that they had, the opportunities that the teams would come in and bring them forward, it was an interesting one. Kind of build up of the game, of course, was kind of the ramifications of hits and stuff that happened the previous weekend with different members of the roster. Of course, CHL. So obviously anything that Dops would have done would not have affected that game. So you get to the game nice and early. You kind of get in the arena. You hear that obviously the German fans are out and about, different bits of stories, that alcohol involved, drums, not got tickets, not wanting to, trying to get in as quickly as possible, not used to the UK way and things that we like to queue in this country. And if you've been to the Utilis the last couple of weeks with doors opening, if you don't get there early, you're going to be queuing for a long time. And obviously people in Britain know how to queue better than anybody. So really, really great. Atmosphere, really full house. I mean, it's very rare it's not there or thereabouts in Sheffield, but, no ice. I have to congratulate them after WWE. If you've seen the video, obviously changing it from a wrestling venue to repainting the ice, it looked clean. I know sponsorship is a big factor for people to get money within the sport, but just to see, the CHL logo, the different logos around, and just on the dots, it was nice, crisp and clean, and liked it, of course. It was a really different view. You kind of used to seeing, so many advertisements that not just Sheffield, every other team now has to put money in the table. And one way to do it is with eye sponsorship. It's space. The old definition of you can put any information there that you can and utilize the space. How many people are going to see it on social media, everything like that. Perfect space and opportunity. Any other team that doesn't do it, obviously there's going to be other factors in the rinks that they do about putting it on the ice or anything like that. But I highly recommend it. As long as it's not like a black area where the goal is, so you can't see the puck going in the net, which actually might be a good idea, but didn't hear it from me. Anyway, but really great atmosphere. Fans come in, they bring in drums. A different level there. They've got their banners, they've got their signs. And, for a small number of group of people that came in the building, they were loud and proud following their team. It was really, really good atmosphere, both sides. You've got to look at the game. Tiredness does set in for a game like that, but you're playing a top team that's just going to ground and pound you down and down and down and utilise the space that they've got on the ice. They've got a talented roster, seeing a few of the names that they've got. And that's the thing. You're playing in a competition where you get through the group stages, you're going to be playing against top opposition from Europe, Canada, and the States. There's no getting away from it, They say it's Champions Hockey League for a reason. That's the time for teams you're playing. But, really great atmosphere. Really weird because obviously started the game near the German fans. Didn't want us to do any recording close by, admittedly, due to, absolutely, priority. If they don't want to be filmed, absolutely their prerogative. So very early on, knew not to film them. They brought balloons in. Obviously, health and safety fiasco nightmare. But one thing that was really interesting was seeing the security, because normally security is littered around. You could just see them all just descend to that corner and, having a laugh, having a joke, singing and dancing, having a few drinks. That's what we want to do. Obviously, we're going to be talking about atmospheres because I know that, obviously, at the weekend, Clan had the hooligans in against the Panthers. I know I've seen that on social media. These hooligans are getting shorter and shorter, but they're young, they're impressionable, and they had a bit of crack and a bit of banter. If anyone's going to get complaining about a group of 7-year-olds shouting, hurling abuse at fans, that's a scary one to do. But this is one thing that obviously we'll talk about the game, but the atmosphere was kind of where I really wanted to focus on. Did the introduction is, we've been very lucky. We've been to a lot of rinks in and around the UK. Some more than others, obviously, before I say that, because obviously I know that people might make accusations that I've been to more rinks than others, and I have. Fingers crossed by the end of the season, we'll be in a position where I can have a few more rinks to the belt. But the thing is, people are paying their money home and away. You've got the season ticket holders. I know people want drums or trumpets or bassoons or, whatever instrument they want to bring to a game, cello, just to bring a bit of atmosphere to a game. And, I know some rinks allow it. Some rinks are dead against it. Other ones that don't know have been allowed in previously, but have been pre-warned that they can't bring that kind of stuff in. And, this is what you want. I remember a time when I went to Nottingham and there was one guy in the Fife end and Fife won. So a couple of seasons ago, of course, that happened. But there was one guy, literally one guy in the Fife end because of travelling. I think it was on a Wednesday night, and he outsung the entire rink. And you see things like that and you hear it and you just... you can't believe it. That's why I recorded it. That wasn't the time when I did the mooing, of course, because we know that I got a couple of those back in my time. But atmosphere, that's the thing is that people want this backward and forwardness. And it is a lot of fun. These chants that you do, a lot of people, I'm from a football background. I've seen, on the turnstiles and the terraces of different football games. You just think about it and you go, someone makes a mistake, she fell over and stuff like that, so long It's so long you take away and everything, and other profanity side of things. But hockey fans have got that level of jest and humour for the most part. I mean, obviously, when it comes to hits and stuff like that, but we do latch on to certain things that we find, and then you can parody and kind of have a bit of a banter about. But away fans are making the travel. You got to think about it. I mean, I saw a post today, someone who had travelled to Glasgow and then travelled to Coventry and basically said, I've travelled all these miles, and I got to see no points. I mean, there's no, obviously, supporting your team through thick and thin. You are in a position where you go. There's no guarantee your team's going to win. No guarantee your team's going to win. You lose. I mean, there is, there's the form book. Of course, there's certain games that you probably go in there and you're thinking, this should be a win on the board. But, hockey is one of those things. I mean, if I knew who was going to win every single night, I'd be a richer man than I am. But you go to it, you enjoy it. The thing about the crack and the enjoyment, the away days are the ones where you go to the pub, you go for food, you look at the local scenery, you do a rink tour or anything like that if you've not been before, but you put yourself in a position that it's away from home comforts. I mean, for me, logically, geographically, my home rink is Nottingham, but and people would say Sheffield is an away rink for me for now, but all I can say is I feel the most comfortable, the most welcomed at Sheffield than I do in other places, which is good. And you see both sides of the coin, really, if you think about it, because I can see the home fans, I can see the whooshing, Norma, Charlie, the dancing, the music, Sweet Caroline, proposals, engagement proposals, the Lion King, all those things. Same that Nottingham does, and the bongo cam. I'm sure not. I mean, obviously, not. Clan had the Dino Cam. They're going to have so many things now. They've got the really big screens. Not sure what Storm are doing at Altrincham, if they've got anything lined up. Those teams are utilising it because that is the thing. Is it's an experience. Someone was telling me the other day. They were pre-planning how to come to a hockey game, and the usual things. Get food before the game because of the cost, the queues. Bring money. For the 50-50 and the shirt off the back. We will go to the outrage of shirt on the back in a bit. That is on the agenda. So obviously we will cover that later on in the day, that there is some shenanigans that have happened with shirt off the back, but I'm not bitter, it's fine. But that's the thing, it's a whole experience. Games, of course, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. You've got a break in between, stoppages and plays. There's a good 2-3 hours that you can go to a rink. I mean, obviously I stay a little bit later due to media aspects of it, and you are there a long time, and atmosphere. Can you do it continuously? I mean, you can. Some people say that depend on the result of the game, if people are standing on their head, or there's some fights or there's some drama, kind of gears up the crowd from both sides. But then obviously, some fans come as an enjoyment. The way the rinks are now, some people are at the plexi, if some rinks allow it, some away fans, some will be sitting in their designated area, or look at the draw. Freedom is that no one has any issues with someone sitting in a different row, a different part of the arena. It's not like football where security would grab you and haul you to the away end. People are actually, I've sat next to people that are supporting the opposition team, and it's probably been the most fun because you kind of have that objective view. And you've been very fortunate that you can see people on the outside the rink and inside the rink, and then at the bars, in the food queues, and just have a conversation. Lament, laugh, and think of everything that's happening, going good for your team, going bad for the team. And obviously Wednesday night was another example of that. People were taking their tops off. Personally, don't have an issue with it. I wouldn't do it myself. I mean, rinks are cold anyway, but seeing the atmosphere of, the cheering, pretty sure they were singing a version of Twisted Sister at one point, but, the songs were good. My German isn't great, but I kind of got a gist of what they were saying anyway. But that's the thing, that backward and forwardness, it kind of brings the best out the home team fans because, they've got the drums. Drums are also going as well. And you see at different rinks where that backwards and forwards, the banter era is. I remember a couple of years ago around Christmas when DeBow made an error and Steelers fans were cheering DeBow as a Steeler. And that's, little bits like that. They're the little gems that you want to enjoy. But, no issue with tops off. I know people were making issues and that. Then it comes to the next point as well, was the skate at the end. Got the footage because, if I'm honest, I was getting the footage because, they were doing the clapping the fans. I thought, really great content. That would be good to do it. No Eddie, of course, 5-3 scoreline, typical. Everyone loves an Eddie. I know, obviously, on social media, people like it and tell that when it's going to go away. And they actually got the originator of the Eddie to do pre-game good luck. So that was interesting to see the person who started it all. But every team does the same thing, regardless of how the game ends. There's a lap of appreciation for the fans. You do the away, you do the home, and that's what they do. People that said, well, it's just a curtain at the other side, but there's the staff, there's the ambulance crews, there's the cheerleaders, there's the media team, there's a lot of people, and of course the goal buzzer guy that does it there. So there is that appreciation, but also if you're going to start there, you want to show appreciation to the away fans as well, and then you can start hitting the ground running with the rest of the group. Admittedly, from it there was no altercations or anything like that. They just went past them. They went through them because there was a sizable gap to do so. People said it lacked class and, stay classy and everything like that. I mean, there was no intention in my respect of posting that to cause any drama, but it was just, it's what we saw. We posted it, and, a lot of people said that how are Berlin going to react on Tuesday with that kind of disrespect? But on the same level of that is that, there was a lot of respect between the two sides when the interviews were taking place. And to be fair, they kept the fans in and the players came out and had some time with the fans just on the ice. The players, the fans were in the stands singing to them, chanting to them, waving their shirts at them, and having a good, I mean, to be fair, I left after about half an hour or so, but it could have been possibly an hour of them just being one with the team. And, little moments like that is what you weren't going to see it, of course. Might be on Berlin social media. Haven't seen anything myself. But to make that trip, make the travel, these are the fans that are proper hardcore. I was speaking to someone who is playing in Germany at the moment and, basically said, I didn't realise that, German fans were just that into it and that just, fully embracing it. And they basically said, yeah, literally week in, week out, there's just a diehard devotion to their team. And of course, other places in Europe, please don't say I'm trying to pigeonhole Germany, but it was actually a really, really great experience to watch that great hockey backwards and forwards, in a position that Steelers came back into the game. Every time that Liam Kirk had the puck, there was a kind of a degree of trepidation. For me, it was kind of like Liam Kirk watch. Phone was straight on him as soon as he was on the puck, thinking, if you could write a script, he's the one that you'd kind of be in a position that he was going to score. It would just look, the league was there. Everyone was there. It was kind of building up towards it. This guy from Maltby that, bleeds orange back with his new team, obviously after the draft, making a name for himself, coming back to the place where he calls home and he's got a special affinity to. What are the chances that he would score the winner? And obviously, if you're watching this or listen to this after the game on Tuesday and he does do that, as they say in WWE, it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. But if it doesn't happen, obviously that's not my fault, but if it does happen, Don't show hate at me. It's absolutely fine. So yeah, atmosphere of that. We're going to obviously go back into that later in, but obviously I've got to make sure it's very fair not to speak about other teams and everything like that, and just obviously not show a bias. So Friday night, Manchester Storm. Spoke about them a lot last time we had the show. Obviously, nearly having 2 hours worth of penalty minutes from their Friday game against Guildford and then the Saturday game against Sheffield. Obviously, I know caught a little bit of slack on that on social media about focusing on those 2 games for that amount of penalty minutes compared to a slight, just, basically something that happened in the other game on Sunday for 30 seconds that, according to Dops, was just worthy of no fine or anything like that. So, credit to Manchester Storm on a Friday night. Loving the fact that they're doing these Friday games. I think for a city the way it is with Manchester United, Manchester City, of course, this weekend is an international fixture side of thing. There's a lot of rugby and, there's a lot of sports. Cricket isn't on, of course, with Lancashire as well. But Storm have kind of got this catchment area where they can utilise a Friday night. Great local area. I know they've got Witherspoons. I know they've got Tesco. Other places are available too. But I think Friday night games, if you can utilise them to bring people through, I'm a preference to, some people might say they want to do Saturday, Sunday, but for the players and the travelling, Friday, Sunday is a kind of game. Admittedly, you've got to do it at 7:30, so transportation, everything, and I go great tram links, great parking, of course, as well, because obviously you can get your car hit by a player with a football while you're there. But Friday night game, they've not had the greatest run, Manchester Storm. Pretty much getting everyone back in the building. No one was suspended. Keeping themselves in a good position and playing Dundee. Dundee's form last couple of weeks, they weren't coming into it feeling like they were under the cosh. They were actually being really played well. So the surprise that it happened where, for Storm, first period, second period, kind of got the goals that they needed to do, and Stars kind of mounted a comeback in the third. Watching everything, that we could over the weekend. Storm is, really great last season. A lot of people ate humble pie where they finished and the predictions they had. A lot of people thought they were going to carry on with the kind of recruitment and players they did. I think from a consistency point of view, a lot of people have been looking at it, wanting improvement and see the way that they're playing. This is new coaches, Matkin making the move and having the switch over that they did. And then, they've got some really talented players there. And that's the thing, is that you look at them and you think these are probably a lot of guys that can be, scoring more, assisting more, getting points, and actually giving a couple of nosebleeds for another team's pardon the pun with all the fights and everything. But sometimes that they look like they're not going to lay a glove on you, and it's a weird one. It's that level of consistency. And you could say the same with Dundee Stars. They've had a really good couple of weeks, getting the wins, getting the points where they need to do, but assured performances. But then they have that little bit of a spike, and then the consistency is there. They go to it, Friday. Obviously, for me personally, a Friday game against Stars, and then playing the game on Sunday, travelling back home to play Guildford. When I saw that, my first instinct would be, well, if you're in Manchester, stop over in Manchester in the night, Altrincham, Manchester area, sorry, and then go to Guildford, get a weekend out of it. But obviously this is the new stratagem, the new system with the way that they are setting up the fixtures. But that's the thing, is Stars, I was to watch them up close and personal against Fife a couple of weeks ago, and players like Jake Elmer as well, Sabo, Ben O'Connor, Yamamoto. They've got some really talented players, and obviously they've added Philip Sange back into the roster. And you look at it and you think they've got enough about them. And, Mark Lefebvre as well, really great coach. You look at it and you think, I think a lot of people came into that game thinking that, Dundee would just be on the ascendancy again. And, but this is the thing, going back to it, is there is no guarantee in sport. It's, good week on the ice, good week off the ice, injuries, knocks, thought processes. And unfortunately, from a lot of teams making the changes, is sometimes you're bringing some people in, you're waiting for injuries, you're waiting for form to come back and see what's available in the market. And, Storm were probably in a position where they were probably getting on the wrong side of headlines. But at the end of the day, they were on the wrong side of headlines, but they didn't get done by Dobbs. And that's one of the key things, really, that they played really, really well. And were deserving the victory. You look at it and you're honest with it. At the end, 6-3 game, absolutely fine. But, a lot of that is due to, when you think about it, a lot of it at the end is, last couple of minutes is getting a penalty. Derflinger gets a penalty on goal defender interference. Joe Morrow gets done for interference. So, the 5-on-3, they get the power play goal. And then, of course, there's the empty net. It just opens up a world of the game's kind of hit with the last couple of minutes. And we're going to obviously cover how games can change with the last couple of minutes, depending if you pull the goalkeeper to try and get a couple of points in normal time, during overtime, or just for the crack. But credit for Storm, last couple of weeks, obviously talking about not performing well, not playing to the best of their abilities, and talking about their penalty minutes, but really damn good performance on a Friday against a team that probably looked at it and thought they would struggle against. But 3-goal game in it. One of them's, an empty netter. Another one's on 5-on-3 power play. But they've got a great bunch of lads there. They got a chance to throw chocolate at them. I know the fans love that. So credit to them. Really, really impressed with Friday night performance by the Storm. And then you think with it that where they go from there now, really, because they are a team where really great performance on the Friday, but then the next set of fixtures, this is where the problem sits, is, next week as well, they've got Saturday night back against the Steelers. It all depends, obviously, Steelers from Tuesday as well, Champions Hockey League. It's a great game. Storm versus Steelers is always a great game. And then they've got Nottingham away on the Sunday. And obviously, Panthers will be a conversation, but I think we'll bed ourselves into that one for a little bit later when the kiddies are gone to bed for that one. But, really good week for the Storm. More of the weeks that are going on, they've got an opportunity. And it's still, it's not early days, but it's still putting ourselves in a position where, does anyone have a sense to worry right now of if they're going to finish at the playoff places? Of course, the Challenge Cup, people are out of that. Still a long way to go until we exactly know what's going to happen next, due to it not ending into the back end of December and those games being played in February, of course. But, league-wise, someone can make a sign in injury, form changes and goes somewhere, and then something just happens, which kind of leads me into Saturday night Challenge Cup. Fife, they're a team that they pretty much, last couple of weeks is probably, if I'm honest, they're probably looking at it thinking, wow, could have done with a break, could have done with it, chopping and changing. Marlon Latau leaves the organisation. Massimo Croza, old Panthers face from the past, comes in, swapping. Injuries as well. Look at the bench of the injuries that they've got. Curran is injured, of course. He's on the bench. Austin Farley, they've been lucky where they've just been very minimal number of skaters. Shane Owen, who's obviously been playing his heart out, can only do so much. But to go to Belfast, everyone knows that where it kind of finished with the Belfast were through. They just needed to make sure that they got the points that they needed to get the top overall seed, which of course would leave them home advantage and get to pick your poison in the semi-finals of who they want to play. Voris is netminder for Flyers as they go over to Belfast. And, you look at it, very early on, Cooper gets the goal within 35 seconds. This new way that Tom Coughlin's been talking about is just trying to keep it defensive, minimize the mistakes, and then play out from the back and get into these games and get a lot more defensive cover, because there was a lot of games where it was just like 5 or 6-0. And of course, playing D-men as forwards and forward as D-men because of the way that, the Brit situation, not having enough bodies. So to go so early on, 35 seconds in against Belfast, of course, your heart goes out for them. Big numbers of fans that make the travelling. Who doesn't love a trip to Belfast? Of course, but then, going under in 35 seconds, you've kind of done it in such a situation where, Felix scores, power play goal, 2 minutes in, so it's already 1 apiece. And, 11 minutes as well, Cooper gets the second. And, that's the thing, is that, Belfast are a team that, credit to them, they got through, they played the game that was in front of them. There wasn't any chopping and changing to such a degree of, injuries or anything, or trying to cover anyone, having 2 home games over the weekend as well, making the necessary adjustments and changes they needed to do. Take the lead, Fife can make it and come back. Within a couple of minutes, Belfast make it 3-2. But then within a couple of minutes again, 5-5, get a goal. Probably more fight there than you saw against Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. So I'd throw that one in as well. But, goes to overtime, 51 seconds in. Lucas scores and makes it a 4-3. So it's a point apiece, absolutely fine. But to get a win, and this is the thing, is it's a lottery. You get the 60 minutes out of the way, you're 3-on-3, 1 bad turnover, 1, puck luck, 1 bad change, 1 hit, a skate, something dodgy, and it can change the flow of a game. Same with the shootout, we've seen it before. Some people might score, some people won't, but when it goes into the realms of an overtime and shootout, but this is not taken away from Fife. They've last couple of weeks have got to that stage again, to the 60 minutes, hitting that, and then it just hasn't fell for them. This time it did. And, I'm sure the fans were absolutely relieved, aghast, in dreamland. But good on them. Fife, I want to see them do well. I know I said it weeks and weeks and weeks, is that, there's a lot of good people up in Fife. And, great fan base, great people. Tom Cullen, absolutely great as well. There's always going to be a team that finishes in the bottom 2. Really don't want it to be those guys. It would be nice to see them in the playoffs. Still time yet, Obviously, this is not me counting my chickens or doing any predictions, because we said that we weren't doing any predictions, because I'm going to get them massively wrong. But, Fife, if they get, a couple of bodies that they can still do, form hits it, injuries come back. They'll, look at this time last year. They were kind of in a similar trajectory. Beat the Road Blokes, and then went on a really great run for the playoffs. And, people have to look at it from short memories point of view, is we're watching the Flyers game versus Steelers, and the end, the result was what it was for Fife. Did all the man of the match stuff, and then Ali going onto the ice to speak to Tom to confirm. People were happy they got into the quarterfinals, but I think more people were so happy that Tom Cullen was coming back for another season, thinking that, he's got, he understands the league, he knows what he wants to bring in. And, I was one of those people. I was actually quite happy that one of those characters, we've had a lot of characters in coaching positions before, and then some people have been, you know, peculiar with tricycles and punching people and everything else. Obviously, not naming any names, but yeah, we've had some characters within the league in the last couple of years. But he's one of the good eggs, and to be fair, credit to them. They got a win. Belfast's obviously in a position that they did anyway. We'll probably take that one on the chin. But yeah, I mean, that's thing 5. Go through that, play a really good game. And then, of course, Belfast on the Sunday was. I mean, that's the thing, is it's Clan. You know, Clan are one of those teams that, you know, someone posted today that they're a couple of points better off than they were last year. And, you know, there's a lot of movement in round. You know, Gary Hayden makes the move. Corey, and that's the thing, you know, we've been through this. You know, Corey is hell of a coach. You know, his playing career, his coaching career, not just in the UK but Germany and for GB, is that, you know, a lot of people, you know, from a Panthers persuasion wanted him back at some point. Some people have looked at that name and the name value that it brings. But from success's point of view, recently in the Elite League, I mean, his hands were tied when he came back to Panthers, had the opportunity to bring the players that he wanted to bring in, making the changes that he wanted to do, and, you know, playing against Adam Keefe, of course, someone who he's familiar with from his playing career and also from his coaching career as well, probably was expecting much more of a fight. And that's the thing, you know, Belfast, credit to them, you know, really great weekend. Being the guys that wanted, you know, even though it's an overtime victory, you know, victory for 5, they're in a position where they really, you know, wanted to be. Not leaving the weekend, especially with the league positioning as well. And, you know, Clan taking some silly penalties. You know, in the interview, Corey was saying that there was too many passengers, you know, that level of consistency. And I think that's probably something that I'll say, not just for Clan, but for a lot of other teams, is that you're starting to see certain names. You know, if you look at teams in the last couple of years, they've had all names popping up from different lines, different equations, different plays. And, you know, there's always going to be that bright spark within a team. If you can have one or two of those bright sparks, absolutely perfect. But on a night, if it's not flowing and it's not clicking, it's a bit of a problem. But obviously, when you're playing a team of stature that's Belfast, you know, if someone's not fully at it and not playing and you're taking silly penalties, you're not going to win any prizes. And to go 5-1 down against Belfast for Clan, not a great weekend. Not many meltdowns, won't lie. So obviously that's a bonus for everyone, because there's probably a reason why Clan were a little bit more jovial, because, you know, there's a lot of things going in last couple of days about, you know, the Neil Black side of things of being Clan, and, you know, Clan being the B team and being a team that's just got, I mean, like Philip Paraday, Simon DePriest, Joe Hazeldine, Lakovic, you know, just name a few, Corey as well. All these players that, you know, have been in the black and gold of Panthers. But if you know what these players are going to do and these people that are going to do as well, but, you know, the only things they kind of saw from that particular game was, I think the biggest talking point was the couple of the hooligans that were behind the goal, the 7-year-old hooligan gang that was making noise and rude gestures to the fans. Obviously, I mean, from the biggest point of view, the biggest issue would probably be the performance, not for Clan. You know, that's saying great home fan base. You know, they have got a couple of home games back to back, especially the 6th of December, 7th of December. And if you obviously follow our social media channels, that might give you an indication or a clue of something that might be happening the next couple of weeks. So watch this space. But I like Clan. I'm going to say it. I like Clan. Great bunch of fans. Really get on with them. Good crack as well. Can have a few shenanigans and everything like that. And they're always good for a fight as well. Not the fans, of course. I mean, the players. If you ever want, obviously, any social media content, go for Clan because they'll always deliver with a few punch ups and everything like that, and a good few goalie saves, and that you can add to the repertoire. But that's the thing, level of consistency. Play against Panthers team, slide it in, win 4-3. You're probably thinking, let's go buoyed up. We've got that confidence now. We've got a win at home. Fans are happy, celebrating, getting the takeaway and everything. Of course, Clan live with their takeaway choices as well. Make the trip, go to Belfast, and then that's that level of consistency. That's the thing, is that Clan can do this for a couple of games where they can play really badly, then they can play really great, and then you're back to square one. You're like, well, the real Glasgow Clan, please stand up. Please stand up. So you do it, and you think, just a level of consistency. If you're going to be consistently rubbish, do that. But if you're going to be consistently good, because there was a time that everyone was thinking, this is going to be the massive Glasgow Clan, and they were going to start hitting up at the top of the table and be one of those top 4 teams. Cade for a couple of years is an exclusivity contract, doing really well for Utah. Where does that look in the next couple of months? Who knows? In the next few seasons as well, of course. But, Gary Hayden's gone. Everyone loved Gary Hayden, especially with the tweet and everything like that you could throw down there. And his stats this year are better. Sorry, Ewan. So that's there. But, you look at it and you think they've got a couple of bodies. Apparently, they've got a couple more bodies that are coming in next couple of weeks. Corey's recruitment side of things, if he can bring somebody in and instantly change it, because at this moment in time, they might be the team that, if they don't pull their finger out and start getting points and performances, they might be, again, in the bottom 2. But there might be a team that can help with that. There might be a team that might be looking at it from the barrel of a gun and thinking, well, we need to do something. We need to do something quickly. And that is, as we're live from Nottingham, of course, it's about the Nottingham Panthers. So, a nil point weekend. So, go against Clan. This is where the idea goes, is that there was a time that when Panthers would look at it, they would have a certain number of teams that they would beat, some teams that they wouldn't beat. They would just, they could raise it up for the big games against the big boys and then just drop points in the silly stages against teams that, were of the smaller budget in and around the bottom half of the table. Now, it has changed. Now they can't get a point against the big boys for the most part, and then also put themselves in a position where they just have no consistency. They have brought in the players that they wanted to. Sam Herr is someone that's been on the Christmas list for many of a fan pretty much since the season ended for COVID. They wanted him back. That was the person they wanted to bring back. His commitments, family commitments, to finally come back to Nottingham. And now it's coming through to such a degree where he's there, he's captain, his name picks up on the score sheet. Otto coming back as well. Logan coming back. Betteridge, Kelso. Chopping and changing that they've done last couple of seasons. People are on social media talking about the Stewart effect, pointless. Danny Stewart, is he the right person for the job? And then, obviously, 3rd year in it for Omar as the next person that's in the building. And that's the thing, if you look at it off the ice with all the commercial side of things that they have done with bringing, McDonald's back into the building, getting it onto Notts TV, on the radio. I mean, went to Nottingham at the weekend on Sunday and went to the John Lewis area to see, obviously, the jerseys. It's a very small section, literally. Blink and you miss it. We couldn't find it straight away, where they had a couple of bits. They didn't have the jackets, if anyone's asking, admittedly. But this is the thing, from a commercial point of view, they're doing everything right. They're getting bums on seats. They're getting everyone in the building and getting big attendances. But from performance on the ice, I know everyone's talking about the streak against the Steelers. They've got obviously getting performance where every so often, Devils come to Nottingham, Devils can't win in Nottingham. Belfast don't really like it in Nottingham for the most part. Fife, fair enough, it's a good performance because where Fife were originally. Dundee came into the building, Storm came in the building. Clan pretty much when they're away and come into the building. There's a lot of teams there. Is where you're going to pick points from because there's no level of consistency. They've got chopping and changing. They've got obviously Rock's gone now because of the commitment they did. Hunter's come in, plays his first game. People are already saying why they put him in and they should have kept the other netminder in against Clan. Where's the level of consistency? They've never seen this guy play before. Talking about the Brit side of things, the level of quantity, one person makes a mistake and he becomes a pariah and everyone's expecting a lot more. And you're just waiting to see on social media that now Panthers is becoming the fan base meltdown button. Is a lot of the time if we're looking for something, then someone will throw in a comment from an occasional fan that the irregular faces are, not naming any names, but beginning with J, which then puts themselves in a position that says, so-and-so needs to go out the building. We need to recruit. We need to bring a whole new set of players in, new sets of coaches in the middle of November. And you think it's chop and change. You could clearly say, let's take last year out the window. But what I'm saying now could have easily been said when they got rid of Tim Wallace, when they had Gary Graham, when Corey came back for a stint. There's so many different factors. It's the same conversation of when it's going to be, when's it going to be a position where I think, you've got to look at it. And at the moment, people are going into the building. Outside influences are coming through where there is a lot more people coming in from not Nottingham Forest, almost said it again, Notts County and all those other teams, that people are happy on a Saturday night. If Forest aren't playing, it's a good night out. It's a good, you can drink. It's a good appetizer before a night out on the piss in Nottingham. And that's the thing is you're getting fans in that are a little bit of that different crowd that is getting the numbers in, getting the finance in. It's a good laugh and a bit of a joke. But the more you see it from a Panthers point of view is that people are getting very much delusioned with how it is actually going, is that no one likes to be the proverbial whipping boys. I mean, Steelers fans make these comments about it being like, oh, I'm a little bit apprehensive. This could be the night. We're not playing really well. We've got so many games in the CHL. This is the time that Panthers might do us. And then for me, I'm just a little bit like, yeah, have that pessimism, absolutely fine, fully understand it. And, I know everyone used to say about having a 2-goal lead against the Panthers, this cliche line of what it is, but this is a Steelers side that have not tasted defeat against the Panthers for, to be fair, I was single the last time Panthers won against Steelers. So either I'm rushing or it's been a long time. But you look at it and you think, when is it going to stop? Is it a case of, bringing the right coach in? Have they got the right coach in the building? And it's just a matter of patience. Can they bring somebody in? There was a post today where it said that Panthers is the only team that hasn't got a fighting major in the Elite League. And I'm not condoning that fighting is the answer, but are Panthers in a position where they're just getting their belly tickled by every team in the league? And of course, someone did point it out as well on social media that Panthers haven't been the same since there was a conversation about the Panthers Raw. I'm going to throw it out there. I don't think that is a reason for teams to be losing, knowing if they roar or not. But it's tough. They've done a lot of inroads, social media input, absolutely perfect. The people within the organisation from the media point have a lot of time for them. And then, you think about it, this is the thing that you're building this kind of platform is business is a big part of it. Please don't get me wrong. I know that, there's accommodation, there's equipment, there's a lot of things that you've got to make sure that the cash flow is perfect, but there has to be a healthy medium. Is that you're bringing the cash flow in, but you're making people happy, and the assertion that, people, there's always going to be, regardless what happens, it is this cycle where, people make a laugh and a joke about it by, this is going to be our year. Middle of it goes, this isn't, and then the circle completes it again. And, some teams, Sheffield, Belfast, Devils as well, with the successes they've had in the last couple of years, they can take it on the chin. If they don't quite do it, it's always like, well, we had a fun run. We got there close enough. But there is just some teams where it's just like continuous suffering. I mean, I think they call it the Maple Leaf chart, but obviously as a Maple Leaf fan, I'm just going to throw that in there. But it's tough because you want money coming through the door. You want that assertion of, this is going to be our year. Because that's the thing, people make signings. I remember a time when you'd get the time and know when the signing was going to be, and there was a level of excitement of someone coming in at, 7:00. Not like 6 a.m. or anything like that, but 7:00, you'd see a name. Everyone would be typing away, going on to Elite Prospects, going on to YouTube, seeing that he had a fight 7 years ago and knocked a guy out, so he's obviously a fighter. And that level of excitement. But then as soon as the season starts, this harsh realization comes in to such a degree where, fans are just eating each other on social media with, you're not a true fan if you don't follow them through thick and thin. But I've always been in the argument is that you can criticize, you can give your 2 cents, but you've got to remember that if you say something within the realm of social media, please be aware that obviously it can come back to you one way or another. If you're talking about hits, I mean, one of the big areas that, big advocate of last year was the transparency that the National League did, where they told you everything about it. There was the obviously in-talking analysis that happened with it, with Craig doing the voiceover. But then, of course, the advocate of that was that most people were getting banned for like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. But people disagreed about it, but they had a conductor of that animosity, that disagreement, with a video that could be slowed down in different places, that could have a pointy arrow and say, this is why I don't think it is. And it opens the realm of conversation. But a lot of the time, it's just a caveat that, well, we've got one of the biggest rings, we've got the biggest budgets, we've got the players, we've got the fan base to do it. None of that means anything. It's how well you perform. Regardless, big fan bases are great, budget's great, but we've seen it a lot of the time where people will just say that that's a factor. It is, of course, a factor, but you've just got to think about it. It's just this complete package. What teams like Sheffield and Belfast do is they have the complete package. They might not win every single game, but they're in a position where if they're going to lose, they're going to lose with gravitas. And that's the thing, is that it's an experience. And I know so many people that don't go to games anymore. Is that because they're in a position where they think, well, I can't take losing anymore? But there is teams that have had a level of ascendancy and then had quiet periods. I mean, I'm going to go into it, but let's go into it now. Coventry Blaze. I mean, anyone who before the season... So let's look at this I'm going to say this as a headline. So Coventry Blaze have long-standing coach decide to leave them and replace him with an assistant coach from Nottingham with no prior head coach experience. You look at that headline and you think, okay, who's got the better deal here? And now we're in November, and I can tell you who's got the better deal and who's doing bloody well for themselves, especially with an assistant coach who hasn't coached as well, who's coming off the back of a Grand Slam, who is bringing a level of respect that with everything that happened the previous year, I didn't think I could respect Kevin more. Yeah, that one obviously went away from me there, saying more. But he's a guy that's came in, he's so thorough, he is so thoughtful with what he's doing. He's I mean, he knows the Goonies. I mean, anyone who recites the Goonies as in an interview question, but he's built this kind of relationship. Every video that you see from the social media from Coventry, he's got. This is the thing, great bunch of lads. They've got a great personality. They seem like great guys. It's a cliche line. Every time I speak to a head coach and say about recruitment, it's one of the things they say. But you don't want a bunch of dickheads. In the nicest way, you want people to win and strive to success. He's brought people in that, in the nicest way. David Clements, I know, obviously testimonial, doesn't really know me, starts pulling faces at me on Saturday. Absolutely fine, but a character. Smile, laugh, and joke and everything. They were just there. Admittedly, winning in overtime with a goalie pulled and their celebration. Was it a little bit over the top? At the end of the day, you've played against a team that are pretty much, there's too late train of thought for it. People have said that it was disrespectful that they tried to do it with 4 and the empty net. Fox was a genius of obviously the master plan of trying to get Coventry out the equation for his trying to get back the Challenge Cup. Or maybe it was the case that he just wanted to try it with the fact that he's going against Berlin. They need to get 2 goals and it's an aggregate score system. So they might need to play that way in a certain way with the last couple of minutes of the game, depending on how the game goes, to try and get through to the next round. I don't know. And you can take it at face value. But Coventry, over a weekend, probably a level of degree against playing Nottingham, the level of performance that they did. Going to overtime, 60 minutes. Travelling's great because Sheffield to Coventry and then playing Nottingham the next day. Absolutely perfect travel because Coventry and Nottingham is not far of a distance. Obviously, that might be a sly situation for someone to drive us there at some point, but, it'd be nice to go to Coventry. But you look at it, really great couple of performances that they've had. Great team, they're scoring. Robson is a hell of a great netminder. Of course, he won Player of the Month for them and also netminder of the month for chasing the puck. So, obviously, great month for him. But watching him, really assured performance. Defensively great. Took a little bit of penalties there. A little bit of a 5 mad minutes that they had against Coventry, but they assured themselves. That's the thing, is that they're getting points on the board and being in such a way that you think, if the run's going to come to an end and they're obviously going to drop in the places that they're going to do as teams are starting with the Conti Cup and the CHL and teams starting to bump up once the Challenge Cup's gone, it's just a level of games where it's just going to be league games. We saw it with Guildford. Guildford would mind the gap. Coventry haven't gone for mind the gap yet. They're just happy being there. Their coach isn't looking at the league table. They're just playing every game that's in front of them. Was there probably a little sly smile getting the points against Nottingham with the way his team's been playing in the performance? But then this is the caveat, is that Coventry's rebuild situation with the expectations of the Coventry fans would mean that, you kind of have that level of breathing space. Being in Nottingham, you sign a player, pitchforks comes out. You get rid of a player, pitchforks comes out. You lose one game, pitchforks come out. You win one game, pitchforks come out. There's a lot of sales of pitchforks in Nottingham at the moment. So that's the thing. That's the biggest thing, is that, the level of expectation for a Coventry fan base is they're just happy. Beginning of the season, people were talking about, are they going to move to the National League with the attendances and, the money coming in. Now they're in a position where they could make it to the Challenge Cup semi-final. We could play that buy-in game. They could put themselves in a really good position in the league. Who knows about the playoffs? It's November. Why are we talking about playoffs? Just throwing it out there. But they are a team that are going to be in a position where, regardless where they are now, hell of a good start of the season. And it's got to be respected. It's got to be admired. It's got to be a position where he's probably thinking, oh, God, Belfast are going to try and steal some of my players come next season. But that's what you want to do. You want to get these players to come in, have a good couple of years from you, and then move them on their way, and they look better for it out of it, and then recruit again. Because that's the thing with recruitment, is that obviously a lot of talk of the way that the system's going to be, of getting them into the system in Canada and the US, means that what kind of players are going to come in? Are they going to be older? Are they going to have to utilise the Brits a lot more because of the age bracket that they can bring in from Europe and the States, because everything's going to be piling up? It's going to be an interesting couple of years, but credit to them. So it'd be very remiss of me, battle that everyone thought was going to happen on Sunday between Storm and Flames as well is going to be one that everyone's going to look at and think there wasn't that many penalty minutes. Anthony on commentary, we were expecting a line brawl and everyone starting to fight and everyone to come through and start some kind of riot and a war. But it didn't, really credit to both sets of team. I mean, I posted earlier in the day, I would say it's not a meme, it's Peaky Blinders, no fighting when they're obviously the wedding and the Rosses are there. But it didn't really come to fruition, if it's honest. That's the thing, is that with a flashpoint in a moment in time, you have to have a look at it. But you've got to credit Flames, really assured performance. Great weekend for them. Thing is, Storm being buoyed from the victory, but then the level of consistency comes in. You have the Friday, you have the Saturday off. You're making a trip to Guildford from Altrincham. A lot of people would say, okay, let's push on. Played really well against the Stars, playing the Flames. Their inconsistencies have been well known and well documented. They've made the necessary changes earlier on in the season they've had. All depends what you come up to it. They're buoyed, obviously, bus legs. I mean, I can't really imagine, the level of travel between Dundee and Guildford from a Saturday night, finishing up late, getting home at the early hours of the morning. But of course, Guildford with a 6 o'clock face off does give you that level of an extra couple of hours in bed. But Guildford didn't even look like the team that were going to be in a sweat. Storm looked like the ones that they were with the bus legs. And that's the thing with Flames. They are starting to quietly go about it and starting to perform really, really well. I mean, one area that you have to really go with is probably someone who has kind of been there or thereabouts since he signed as a player of the month with a top name, is Jack Jacome. He's done really, really well. He's come in, and this is the thing, is that if you can find a player to that level of consistency and bring him in late in the game, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely, really, really good performance. Really, really brilliant player that came in the door. And you look at it and you think, why is it some teams can't find a player like that? I mean, Steelers as well. The fact is they've had to bring 2 signings due to injuries and change, with Michelli making the move back for family reasons, is, Glad, Maxim Glad, bringing him in, and Vain Deal. I mean, that is a name, You're So Vain Deal. If they do not play Carly Simon, You're So Vain, I'll be very, very disappointed with the music choices. But what can you do? This is the thing about bringing people in. I've always been the person to say that if you're bringing somebody in now, the reason is that obviously they've had an injury, they've not been able to get their place back, their form's not been as where they wanted to be, so they can be cut, or there's something that's happened in the outside of the rink or inside within the group that has necessitated a change with the certain organisation, have to make the rest relative move. So to bring players in that you can, people are wanting to make that chop and change. They want to galvanise. They want to either cement their position, put themselves in such a way that they can push on. Because that's the thing, is, a lot of people are probably already looking at it now that there isn't going to be a league push in their future for their team. It's what they can do to make that playoff weekend and put them in their strongest place and strongest position. So you look at it, you do it, and you think, okay, what can we do? What can we bring in? There's not been that case of dropping within teams, of moving people within the elite league. So that hasn't really happened as much, that someone's been dropped and then just magically packed their bags like they have in previous years when they've been in Belfast and they ask for a lift home and then they sign the next day. But, with the transfer deadline, the stuff that they need to do and bring in the right people, and injuries, of course, are a big factor, which kind of leads me in to the points. The final little bits, this is going to be a longer episode because obviously I'm on a bit of a tangent this time. So Cardiff Devils, Conti Cup, really, really great. They played, obviously, a team sponsored by Kevin Tansey on Friday, Ritterbaum. which obviously, if you say really, really fast, doesn't sound great, but really, really great assured performance. Really weird watching a game at 1 o'clock on a Friday. Obviously, hard at work at the same time with me, so of course I didn't get a chance to watch much of the game. Unfortunately, Karina did, but watch the highlights. Really good assured performance. A bit of a worry with Ben Bounds going off injured, in a situation where no one was around him and feeling the pull and everything. Saturday, really, really great performance. Connor Kip's one of those ones that obviously head to heads and taking the performance and getting the win. But then, of course, that little bounce on the boards and then Carruth goes down. And of course, you think obviously the way he's gone down as well. You think, concussion, is he hit his health on a post while he's trying to scanter back to stop the goal? And then you look at the footage that's there, cutting to the fans that were there, really great travelling support. But you could see, you could just see it there that he wasn't, he needed to come off. They needed to get him off the ice. And obviously the decision was finally made to do so. And him being skated off with the team. And that's the worry, is that, you go to these games and it's been there before, teams that have been in there in the Conti in the past, when Panthers have won it, there you go. My obligation is I have to say that when I'm doing this. Steelers have played in the competition, other teams have come back with injuries and it's kind of derailed their season. The fact is, when Ewan King had brought in Maxim Duve, to help him, with being from the Ukraine to start skating ice, and there probably wasn't an expectation that he'd be playing, or not playing as much as he did, but being on the bench, because obviously with Ben Bounds being a Brit and Carruth being there, you kind of got the import situation fine. So, like I said earlier in one of the episodes, is from a tandem point of view, they're probably one of the best tandems that the league has to offer, given the circumstances of being a Brit and an import, and having a maximum number of imports that you can play. But then, of course, he goes down injured against Steelers and takes a while for him to come back to such a degree that he's actually on the bench. And this is what I've said about, Lucas Sheldon being with the Panthers, and probably to effect with, Curtis and Crow being, and Norton being at Steelers, is where, at what position would you want these players to come in during a full game? If there's an injury to any of the players, you don't want an injury. But obviously circumstances would mean that at some point you have to throw a netminder in, and, answering the call, coming out short notice to play a game. People always say this, dead rubber side of things, and being in a situation where he comes in and does a really damn fine job for such a young age, such a young lad coming into a team that, to be fair, I keep saying Aslan because for some reason I've got Lion Witch in the Wardrobe in my mind, but, they really were in such a situation where, this is the thing. A lot of people say, he's a young lad, why don't you run the netminder and stuff, from opposition fans, and it's stupid. But, great performance for it. The result, if I'm honest, you kind of look at it and you think, okay, already through. Injuries and everything, maintain and manage for the rest of the games. You've got this important situation to come back to, especially now with the Challenge Cup. Is there a possibility you might miss out due to a netminder being pulled during a game when you're out the country that you've got no effect on, and you've got games to win? If you win those games, you're back in the driver's seat. Of course, that's obviously a factor that people need to remember. But they've got this European. They've got an opportunity to be the hosts again. They had that opportunity previously, and all present account with Block 13 and the drums and a man with a penis and glasses on his face. I don't know how to describe it. If you've not seen the photos, that actually happened. So I'll try and find the photo somewhere. There was a man with a penis on his face. But that's hockey. Obviously, people complain about shirts being off. It's worse things that you could have on this world. But yeah, you look at it and you think, it's a really great performance. 2 wins, Conti Cup over 3 days. Devils have, to be fair, with the games that they've played during pre-season and actually having 3 game days, good preparation for it. Didn't look out of place, scoring. Imports did really, really well. Riley Brandt, always the great import that they've got, and everyone's a big fan of him. But downside is the netminders. See what that looks like. Obviously, if it's a knock and it's precautionary, great. But you don't want to be losing people for the second stint of the season. Obviously, Tyler's a really great netminder at Bristol. Maxim, really young lad. I mean, Bounds and Cruth, if they're both out, that's a bad one. But if it was precautionary and obviously they're on the mend and they've still got a bit of time before the next fixture, absolutely fine for them. So we'll see. They've got a final to look forward to next year. Everyone wants that dinner plate. Could this be the season that the second team to win the dinner plate in the Elite League? Have to wait and see. Obviously, I'm sure that'll be covered on an episode unless I'm cancelled between now and then, but we'll see. So, obviously, last port of call is we covered the attendance as the away fans. I think one question that's kind of been put at the forefront that have been asked of everything is, what do we think of the DOP situation and the bans? And I'll probably say this, that they've been consistent. Is that they opened up a can of worms where they put fines in for hits. And then where do you go? Because this is the problem, is we're on, social media is probably a big platform where you can be, as soon as something happens, won't lie. On Saturday, there was a hit to Nathan Ripley. Post it online. You get people saying that that's 2-minute minor, absolutely fine. Ejection, get arrested, get the team kicked out of the league. Just a number of comments that you get as soon as anyone makes a hit in this league now. Obviously, posted, I think it was NHL 13, found a clip of a fault in the game where the player goes into the crowd. Again, 2-minute minor, embellishment was thrown out there. Fan souvenir, whoosh, it's behind you, was thrown as well. Throw them out of the league, everything. It's going to happen. Literally, we're in a position now. Whatever happens, every hit you make, every fight you take. I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, if you're not a fan of the police or the other person, but we can't say his name due to legalities, I'll probably get cancelled if I say his name. But yeah, you look at it and you think, it's going to be one of those rest of the season now with every hit that's going to happen. But obviously, I'm going to be an advocate here of, people who are using a tragedy to hit an agenda. That ain't right. End of the day, that ain't right. Do not use something like that to kind of put it up through about a hit that you disagree with, that someone only got fined or didn't get banned or got a slap on the wrist. People taking offense that teams are posting that one of the key players, one of the fan favorites, is being advertised on it. Is, I don't think, can't say this with 100%, is I don't think that there was kind of a business meeting. It'd be really funny. Let's post him because he should have been banned. DOP should have banned him. Let's post it and piss a couple of people off. Did it happen? Do you think that's the reason they did it? Or do they think we need to sell tickets? Let's put one of our biggest hitters on that production. But we are in a position now that, obviously every hit that happens is, people are very kind enough to send us the videos of the fights and interactions and shenanigans. Obviously, I've probably in the last month said feisty 100 times on social media. Only reason I do that is because every time I say there's been a fight or dropped gloves, people say, that's not a fight. That was rubbish. Why are you calling that a fight or dropping gloves? So it's feisty. I put feisty now. If you can tell me another word to use, I'm happy to use the other word. At this moment, everything's feisty. Or feisty, I do. I like shenanigans as well. There's some shenanigans in Sheffield. That's the new one. Okay, we'll do that one. But that's the thing, is everything that's going to happen now. Handbags is also good. That's actually a really good shout. But you're in a position where there is going to be situations but we are in the realm of public scrutiny. Is there's going to be a bias, and I'll be honest with you, is I see a lot more the issues about a certain team when something happens to them. I always say this jokingly, is if that team gave 1 million to charity, people would complain why it isn't 2 million. But the same being said with other teams as well, is that there is a bias between the arena teams and the rink teams, is that one team does a hit on Saturday, the other team does a hit on Sunday, and everyone's looking at it, from orange tinted glasses to teal tinted glasses to black and gold tinted glasses. Is I'm very lucky that I can be that person who just, I don't care, who it is. I'm neutral, absolutely fine. I see it as it is. Get me on DOPS. I'll start dishing out bans and fines. No, I won't do that because obviously it will just end in tears. But this is the thing, that the realm of public opinion now will mean that something's going to happen on Tuesday, something's going to happen on Friday, something's going to happen on Saturday, something's going to happen on Sunday, any day of the week, in the Elite League, the National League, the more Elite League, in Europe, in National Hockey League, in a beer league, in a rec league, there's going to be a hit every day of the week. And that video will go on social media one way or another, and it might be the league that posts it because it's a 3-game ban. It might be on the highlights package, or it might be a fan who's got a camera in front of them that wants to share the photo and send it through a DM or tag us in it, or other reputable social media channels for the hockey community, of course. But as soon as they get posted, there's going to be a level of people looking at them and scrutinizing them. So it's going to happen regardless, unfortunately. And I've seen things that, I've looked at it and go, well, there's nothing much in that. Or, oh no, what's he doing? And stuff like that. Obviously, that is exactly my reaction sometimes to certain videos, if I'm honest. But we're in a position now where the standard has been set. There's been instances that, in my opinion, have been wrong, that should have been banned, should have been fines. We saw accidentally £100 fine. Don't really see much in that, if I'm honest, because I don't know the monetary value or anything like that. But there has been hits in incidences that deserve fines. Some people have had game ejections within the first couple of minutes of a first period game, so they pretty much have lost the game. And my thought process is it's a game where people haven't got they're not playing the teams. A lot of the people that are asking for those bans doesn't affect them in any situation. If you look at it certain, but you go and you think, okay, you aren't playing this team. It's not in your league. They're already through. So, for example, team was playing on Saturday. They're already through in the Challenge Cup. They're already the group winners. People wanting one of their players to be banned in a game that's probably a dead rubber in their sense, because they don't need to get anything. They've already consistently got top seeding now, playing against a team that needs the opportunity to get into third place. Does it affect the other team, that fans that want that person banned? You're in that position where it's like, okay, but the other caveat is what happened to that player as well. Should that person be playing? There's that realm of possibilities. Damn if you do and you're damned if you don't. And for me, decisions that the officials have to make. Great that they had the European official the last couple of weeks that came in. We did the interview as well with looking at what referees can see in a split second as well with Lee Waters. If you're not listening to it, highly recommend it, because we've got videos of the refs are looking at everything, the noise and everything. They've got to try and see something. But then someone says, well, you've got all this technology. You can review the hits. You go to certain rinks and someone gets hit and it's on the big screen within 30 seconds. But obviously you made a decision. You can't then say, I saw it on the screen, so therefore I've got to go and have a look at it. If it gets challenged, depending on the challenges, there's that option as well. But then that's obviously the thing. If it's missed, like VAR, if it's clear and obviously missed, there's an intervention. But I'm not going into VAR because I know people don't like it. But then that comes in the retrospective action. And obviously I know that the National League as well have that opportunity for teams to go through and say, did you see in 40 minutes in the game so and so did this? Can you look at it and review it? And obviously have the striking system to see, well, you've asked for this, we've looked at it in retrospect. Yeah, it should be a ban, it should be this. We don't know with DOPS obviously how that linear thing works. Is it a case of, people are like, well, it's now Wednesday, it's now Thursday, when are we going to hear about a ban? Nothing was posted this week. People make their comments and make their decisions and judgmental. But we are in a position now with whatever happens within a game in real time, we are now getting, to be fair, I posted before even the decision was made of if it was going to be a 2-minute minor or if it was an ejection. I missed the booze because I already posted it. And this is what social media is now. If it's obviously someone's on a stream, someone will post it, the 600 different replays in slow motion, up above, down below, side to side, different variation of the hit in a slow motion, put some theme music on it as well. And then, of course, you'll have those highlights and then you'll see these spewed up videos that are pretty much there of the, not really grainy, people saying, well, you've missed out this bit, something that happened 30 seconds before that kind of justified the behavior, or this is the bit that kind of puts you in a position where, but this is the thing, is that people are looking at it, especially if the game's on a Saturday and something happens on the Saturday night, the wheels are turning, getting them straight away because they need to be banned for Sunday. Of course, there's a lot more breathing room if something happens on a Sunday and the game's not happening maybe Wednesday, maybe Friday, maybe Saturday. People kind of got this vacuum. Obviously, there's this show, there's other shows throughout the week that people will give their 2 cents exactly of how that looks and then critique and judge and put their wild thought processes of why they did it, who did it, and what team did it, and they should be penalised accordingly. Of course, there's always that in the mindset, but I think at some point, something needs to come out, just a statement, just something, just line in the sand kind of thing, because I think at some point it's going to happen every single week now, where there's always going to be a hit, there's going to be a fight, there's going to be an ejection. Admittedly, I'm just rattling off things that are on the bingo card because they happen every week. This is the sport that we love and we enjoy. But as I always say, there is a level of repetition. These things are always going to happen. We might have a smooth sailing week where there's not as much drama as there was the week before, but there's going to be some drama somewhere. So you kind of look at it, you kind of got to be respectful and think, okay, but this constant bashing in on certain people, you can have a laugh and a joke and stuff, but this is the realm of opinion, is that what I'm saying, you can agree with, you can think it's a great opinion. Other people can say, you're off your head, what are you talking about? You really making no sense. That's absolutely fine as well. That's the biggest thing that I've probably taken away from this season so far, is we can all have a different opinion. We can always agree, disagree with what's going on in the sport that we love. Because the thing is, you're all here listening to me now as a person who loves the sport. They might not support the same team. They might not agree with all the decisions or the talking points. They might think I'm absolutely speaking tosh. I had to think of another word on the slide then. So, but that's the thing. We all are entitled to our opinions and all thought process. We see stuff. We see a goal. We see a save. We see a fight. How many times I've seen people try and defend a fight and say so-and-so was the winner. And you're thinking, no, they weren't the winner. There's no winners in the fight. It's just broken. Someone either gets a broken face or a broken hand. But it's one of those things. You're all in a position where we love the sport. We want to see the best thing about it. But, from football, I always imagine if the level of support that football teams have in this country, if that translated to a hockey weekend, just a weekend, people say, hockey Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, all the other channels. Shameless plug, don't forget to follow all those channels as well while I mention it. But could you imagine a week of Premier League football fans, Championship football fans conjugating to seeing what the elite league fan bases are like? It'd be organised chaos. if I'm honest. It would just be a slyness of everything that's going on. But it'd be surreal. But we have our opinions, we have our thought processes. Always said, you know, everyone is entitled to their opinion. It's a safe space and everything like that. But there comes two levels with that. You put an opinion out there, you've got to remember that people will be positive to it, people will be negative, and some people will just be downright rotten and rude. And, you know, one of the biggest things that I enjoy most of all is seeing the activeness, the engagement, the level of controversy. As you do it, you look at it, and you think it's a lot fun and a lot more enjoyable when we have weekends like this. But it's going to be great, you know. Obviously, Sheffield, I mean, a few people are probably listening now. We're already probably looking at their German ancestry. Obviously, great grandfather's ancestry, of course, that you'd be looking for as well. But I think it's going to be another good week in hockey. There's some really good games. Challenge Cup's still going. Plan, obviously, with the double headers coming as well. Flames are coming good. Stars will be looking for that consistency. Same with Storm. Panthers cannot be looking at another 0-point weekend. I feel like this is where, again, a good week for them kind of gets them into a position where people just fan the fames of the pitchforks just for another week. Devils Conti Cup hangover, see how they react to that. Obviously, they've gotten a chance now to showcase what they do on home soil, depending obviously injuries or anything like that. They've got to assess that. Belfast performing really, really well. Good games, of course. Nottingham, hopefully there's no snow or anything or any storms that are along the way. And of course, the hangover for the Steelers, you know, depending on what happens on Tuesday, how do they look on the weekend performances? Of course, against Stars and Storm away. Storm's not really a great praise for them the last couple of seasons because Storm have had their number. So they've got a big 9 games in 21 days. But there's always going to be drama. There's going to be lots of things to talk about. There might be a few more interviews that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. Fingers crossed. I'm trying to get those sorted out. But, you know, it's been nearly an hour and a half that you spent with me this evening. So it was greatly appreciated. As always, give us a follow on... Ready? We're going to roll this through now. So on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, because we're on there now and this will be on there hopefully tomorrow. You know, Bebo, MySpace, MSN Messenger, send us a carrier pigeon. And as always, you know, on our social medias, drop us a question, drop us any communication. Feedback's always greatly appreciated. Don't forget to like and subscribe, anything, you know, feedback, DMs, retweets and everything like that. Just say hi. You know, I might be at a rink near you in the next couple of weeks. Friends Reunited, of course, you know, there's so many platforms that we're missing on. I could just be on social 24/7. Threads, if anyone remembers Threads was something. Morse code, speak to us now in Morse code if I hear it. Teacups with string, chasing the puck with teacups and string going forward. Whatever you want us to be on, we'll be there. But have a good hockey week. Enjoy. Obviously, if you see anything, hear anything, let us know. Send your photos, your videos and everything, as you always do. And all being well, next Monday, we'll be back here, 7 o'clock. See you guys and speak to you then. Have a good one. Good night.